So I played my first round of Street Fighter on stream a couple of days ago, and now this video is going to be what I learned in that stream. I had played Street Fighter 6 off stream for a couple of hours, a couple of days prior, and I was playing it with the modern control scheme. So when I got onto stream, I also started playing on the modern control scheme. I didn't realize how big of a difference this was going to actually be until chats educated me. So if you also don't really know what Modern vs. Classic is, Modern kind of combines a lot of the combinations that you would usually have to practice over and over and over again in a classic fighting game type situation, so that you can get involved into the cool things a little bit easier and faster. And I think this was obviously a play to appeal to more casual players. And I figured that the downside is that you would not have as much control over your character, or perhaps the damage would be a little bit less because you wouldn't have that extra punch or kick, whatever it is, because the combo is just being done almost automatically for you. Now, I was kind of right about this. The modern control scheme does do less damage, but I didn't realize that it actually was something that was across the board less damage. So for special attacks and then supers or whatever they're called, I think it does 20% less damage just as is, just because you're doing it, just because you're using the modern control scheme, which I was really shocked by. I mean, that is a drastic cut of damage, but considering how much easier modern control scheme makes it for you to do, of course, the flashy things, so you feel cool, but then also actually the things that do the most damage, set up combinations and transition over to other combinations and set up chains quicker and easier, then I guess it does make sense that it would have a very big detriment to it. There is also what I anticipated just being, less control oriented for the really top players. You can't quite control exactly to the littlest detail that you'll be able to when you're in classic, but that 20% was a big shock for me to learn. We did learn that it didn't involve the basic attacks. We also learned that if you use modern control scheme, your command list will actually take away some of the special abilities. So I was trying to throw Blanca's doll and I could not find the command for it, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And this is actually what led me into this reveal of what the difference is between modern and classic is. He was trying to throw his damn bomb, and I couldn't, and then someone tried to give me the actual commands, but I eventually just moved over to classic, and as soon as I moved over to classic control scheme, boom, on the command list, I could suddenly see how to throw his doll. And I was like, wow, that's actually a pretty big deal as well. And the fact that you sometimes would not even know about something really cool or cute like that because you're on modern, because you thought that would appeal more to the newbie that you are, or whatever it is. I thought that was actually very surprising. Apparently, if you know the commands from classic, you can still do it in modern. And if you do the old-fashioned combination of controls, right, then you will still get the full amount of damage with it too. So that was some interesting kind of, I know trade-off's not the right word, but I guess basically what they're trying to do is that for modern, it really does help out the newbies and the casuals do cool things without having to train and train and train just to get that one perfect, alley-oop or whatever it is on the fight stick. And then as they realize that they're being kind of capped on that skill level, I suppose, and they start learning more and more about the game and the scene and what the professionals do, they can go, okay, I can see the appeal of classic, I'm going to try and give this a go. All the while still able to do some of the cooler moves easily, but then learning the actual combinations of some of the other cool moves that they're not told about on their command list. And I guess if I had to really think about it, it does seem fair. This actually, I think, is pretty important probably to fighting games actually appealing to casuals, because certainly, as far as button mashing and getting some damage on your opponent, and accidentally doing something cool, which is what what I used to do. That's something that is only so engaging. As soon as you realize that you can't reliably do the cool flippity floppy thing with the paint and the tornadoes and whatever, then it gets really a lot less. A lot less cool. It gets to be a point where you're just like, oh, well, I have to train this for like hours. And I'm now speaking from a place of experience, because initially I played a 1v1 match online on modern off of stream, and I was like, oh, cool, I lost, but I did all the hair flips and shit with Guile. Great, like I still tried. And Then I did it on stream with Classic, and, you know, most of my time was spent getting beat up because I was unsuccessfully trying to do the correct revolve around on my fight stick with the correct punch of the A key, you know? And so you have to practice so much to face people that are probably still on the same level as you, but they've practiced, you know, one move more so, as well as, you know, the regular punches and basic stuff, and then you're still trying to learn. So it does feel like it just is a lot more difficult to get into fighting people online if you're only playing on the classic control scheme, which I'm gonna go ahead and say has deterred me from earlier fighting games. I don't know when they introduced the modern versus classic thing. It might be with 6, but yeah, certainly the less cool things I could do in a video game where I understand what I'm trying to do, the more that I just got frustrated and said, well, I don't really care about facing people online anyway, because I think I did actually play Street Fighter 4, maybe 5, on online, and yeah, it was just, you know, it was okay, but doing only the basic things was not the most fun in the world. So right now, after learning all of this, and this is really the biggest takeaway that I have, which is why I'm spending all this time on it, is that I think the path that I imagine they wanted to lay out, but I don't know their actual intentions, but this is the path I'm going to take, is to pick modern. So you do a couple of cool flippity flops, and then you also start to train as well, especially for those things that don't appear on your command list, so that you know you can do this ability and it does its full amount of damage, and you're training how to actually set up those combinations on your fight stick or keyboard or mouse or your controller, whatever you're using. And then you can kind of mesh the two until you get to a point where you do want to have full control over your character. You kind of want to start to mimic the pros and what they do, and you just realize you're being capped out because of stupid modern control scheme, whatever it is. But then that's a great path and that's a great idea. But then I also was hearing a lot of people who are obviously not pros on my Twitch stream talking about how they really are intimidated by modern control scheme players. They do get to do things a lot easier than if you're trying the old-fashioned path. And if you just want to try the old-fashioned path, you shouldn't be kind of punished for that. But then someone else said that, you know, you could actually really do a lot if you pressure them. They don't do well with pressure. And I don't know, it does seem like a very difficult thing to balance as far as the non-professional scene goes. Now, as far as the professional scene, and this is also, again, why I'm so interested in this whole topic, is how it affects the professional scene. The professional scene, the most control of your character, as well as their years of experience in Street Fighter or general fighting games, where kind of the mechanical skills are very similar. They don't really do modern so much. They are almost entirely all classic, which makes sense, and what I kind of figured, unless there was a huge change and everyone moved over to modern, which I learned was definitely not the case. So I figured, okay, if everyone's using classic, then this must be the case. You got better control. And then I learned also you do less damage if you're on modern. So of course you're going to pick classic. But apparently in the top 8 of the most recent Street Fighter tournament, no, I don't think the most recent. But one of the recent Street Fighter 6 tournaments was a modern control player. And this player was also already very good as well, which is going to kind of make up for some of the downsides of modern. But that also is going to throw in more question as the game develops about what is actually going to be optimal. Because at the end of the day, modern has that 20% cut on some of these things. You can incorporate the old-fashioned combination so that you still have that max damage, and even if you don't do that, you do stick with kind of modern controls, you get the faster like chains and easier setups, I guess, for chaining and combinations and whatnot. So you really do have a lot of damage output that is far easier to execute, even if overall you're getting a damage hit. So that's like, it's literally a trade-off, and one that right now it seems the community is saying is not worth playing on modern. But I could see this actually being a debate more and more as Street Fighter 6 continues to evolve, which this is the type of stuff that gets me excited, if you can't tell. I personally will not be super affected by the modern versus classic control scheme. Some people will probably boo at me for using modern because it's not, you know, old-fashioned way of learning. And some people will be like, whatever, you do you, I don't care. But for the professional scene, this is really where it gets interesting. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that and seeing what it really means to have two different control schemes in a game like this, which I still also do not understand the full extent of like the skill ceiling, right? I pretty much understand the skill floor because I'm there, I'm at the floor, but the ceiling is something that I always enjoy learning about, which was why I watch the pros in StarCraft. Other things that I learned, it is satisfying to finally actually do the combination, right, correctly to get that combo going. It is satisfying. I also reconfirmed that I enjoy the speedier characters more. I saw that Blanco was also labeled as a speed type character, and that wasn't quite what I enjoyed. So I don't know exactly what they're meaning by speed, but for me, I have, I guess, my own definition. And so I enjoyed Cammy, and I enjoyed whatever this guy's name is, which I've already forgotten. I nailed it. And then I enjoyed one more character. So I don't really have a main, which I think is going to be beneficial if I, don't plan on being a pro, which I definitely don't, but rather instead want to just look at the pros. That's what I'm going to like. I also still like Guile. I don't think he's a speedy character, but I just always have liked playing him throughout Street Fighter's lifespan. But I thought there was one more. I like Ken, I think, is actually what I was thinking of. Ken was also pretty cool, had a couple of cool abilities. So that's who I'm thinking of mainly playing, those three characters, and then, of course, still trying out the other ones. If you have an opportunity, this is me being kicked in the butt by someone online. So, and they were using Modern. No wonder they're doing all the cool things, and I wasn't. I was literally spending so much time trying to figure it out, which apparently Guile is also a very bad character to start off with when you're figuring out classic control schemes. So I also learned that. It was a very harsh lesson, but it was a lesson nonetheless. So that's everything that I've learned about Street Fighter 6, or the most important things that I've learned about Street Fighter 6 in my first play on stream, and my second, let's say, serious play of this particular Street Fighter, and then probably only in the dozens as far as my attempts at playing a fighting game, besides just putting the quarter in and just button mashing. So yeah, still very much a newbie to fighting game Street Fighter, even though I've technically been playing it since like Street Fighter 2. I mean, in the most casual of sense. So if you learned something here, great. If you didn't, hopefully you still enjoyed my fascination with what's going on in your scene and your fighting game. So enjoyable time. Looking forward to playing Street Fighter in the future, which I will definitely be doing on stream as well as off. And I will see you guys in the future for more of these kind of breakdown videos of what I've learned playing a new video game.